Hello everyone. Welcome back to Speaking AE2 Week 4. In this week, we are going to learn Unit 6, Summarizing and Concluding. If you look at the syllabus of this course, we are going to study Unit 6 before the other units. This is to make sure that you know how to give a conclusion after you have learned how to give the introduction and how to organize the body of the presentation. What I want to cover today is two important things. First of all, you will learn how to conclude a presentation, and then you will learn how to summarize. Now, first of all, how to conclude a presentation. I will give you 1 minute to read through the extract quickly. Try to remember the information. You can note down some important keywords if you want. After 1 minute, there will be an exercise waiting for you. Now, let's start 1 minute. So that is 1 minute. Now, let's do a practice. Using the notes that you have to complete the tips about giving a conclusion. This time, I give you another 1 minute for you to decide which word to fill in the blanks. The first letter of each word is provided. 1 minute for you. Alright, that is 1 minute. Have you finished? Okay, let us check the answer all together. Now, in order to successfully summarize a presentation, you have to follow the tips here. First, signal that you are coming to the end. Then, make a strong final statement. Summarize the main points. Outline any action points. Invite any final questions. Thank the audience for listening. And finally, hand over to someone else or make reference to what happens next. This is in case someone else will follow your presentation. And then say goodbye. You may wonder what to do for each step. Don't worry. Let's come to the next slide. I will show you carefully what you need to do. So, this is a table to summarize what you should do in order to come to the final part, the conclusion. First of all, you have to signal the end. This is very important because this tells the audience that you are finishing all you need to say in the body. This signal doesn't really mean that you stop speaking from now. It just signals so the audience knows they're in the final stage. And informally, you can say things like to finish, but there are more ways for you to say formally, like this brings me to the end of the presentation. You do not need to take note. I will give you another slide that gives you some common expression. Then you have to thank the audience because they have been listening all the way by saying things like thanks for your time, or formally, thank you for listening to my presentation. The most important step, which I need to give a highlight, is summarizing. This is particularly important because you have been providing the audience with lots of information throughout the presentation. This summary helps them to remember all the important key points. How to do the summary is not that easy, but not that difficult. So in the second part of the lecture today, I will show you how to do the summary. Then you will refer to some action points. This means you will tell the audience what you're going to do after this presentation. For example, you want to sell a car. After giving them a lot of information on the car and what benefits they will get from buying the car from you, now this is a time for you to tell them what you're going to do. Maybe you're going to get their information and you're going to give them some discount. Tell them. You should also invite the final questions, like does anyone want to ask anything, or formally like I really appreciate any questions from the audience. And if you know that there is someone who will follow your presentation, someone else, some other presenters, you should hand it over. Like, Julie, could you say a few words about, or formally, you say like, I'm going to hand over this presentation to, and then you mention the name of the next presenter. Now, to sum up, I'm going to give you some useful phrases. You should take note of the phrases so you can use them in a real presentation. Okay. Now, let's do a practice to see if you remember what we have talked about. This is an example of a conclusion, but the sentences are not in the correct order. Let's rearrange them so you can have the proper structure of a conclusion. I will give you 30 seconds. You should note down in your note paper. So that is the end of the time. Let's check the answer together. So, this is the proper way. I would like to close my presentation now as my time is up. Thank you all for coming today. In summary, a new logo is just part of the rebranding process, but an important first step. What needs to be done now is to have our new logo design. I'll get on to that next week. Now, Mrs. Carolee is now going to give you some handouts, and I'll hand over to Mr. Martin, who is going to say something about the launch of the new brand. Can you analyze this conclusion into the steps we have learned before? Let's do that so you will remember for yourself what needs to be done. You have learned how to do the whole conclusion. Now, in the second part of today's lecture, I will focus on only one part of the conclusion, the summary. This is the key thing in the conclusion. If you can give a successful summary, you help the audience remember all the things you have been discussing throughout your presentation. If you are persuading them something, now this is the final time to remind them of the things you want them to be persuaded. Okay, so let's look at how to do the summary. Now, Look at the picture I have here. You see main point 1, main point 2, and main point 3. What are they? They are the things that you have mentioned in the outline. Where is the outline? Yes, of course, in the introduction. In the introduction, you show them what you are going to do in this presentation by saying, I have divided my presentation into 3 main parts, and you introduce to them the 3 main parts. Now, in the summary, you will show them the main point again, but this time, if you look at the red arrows, you see now we have the focus point. What is the focus point? The focus point is the key point that you need them to remember in main point number 1. Of all the things you have been discussing in main point number 1, you want them to remember a very important thing, and this is your focus point. You're going to design a slide like this with your 3 main points and the focus point. Still don't know what to do? Let me give you an example. This is how your summary will look like. Now, for example, in the overview, you said that I'm going to talk about 3 points. First, I'll tell you about the tires. Second, I'll tell you how powerful the engine is. Third, I'll tell you about the speed of this combination. Then you have a body with lots of numbers and examples to illustrate the 3 main points. In the conclusion, now you change the tense. You do not use the simple future tense or be going to anymore. Now you have to use the simple past tense because you already discussed the points. I talked about 3 points. First, I told you about the tires. Now, this is the time for the focus point. Please remember the tires last twice as long. Second, I told you about how powerful the engine is. This is the main point. Now, focus point. Don't forget it has 2000 cc. Third, I told you about the speed of this combination. I hope you remember that with these tires and this engine, you can reach a speed of 200 km per hour. So, you mentioned the main point and then the focus points. Let's look at another example. Okay, you can pause the video clip and practice speaking out like what I have done. You mention the outline and then you practice the summary. Okay, let's come to another practice. So imagine that on your left hand side, okay, this is your presentation. And you have divided this presentation into 1, 2, 3, 4 main parts. And for each part, you decide 1 key point to remember. Okay, so this is the things you are going to put into the summary slide. Okay, so this, you see, the purple one will be your summary slide. You show that to the audience. And for the focus points, you just need some keywords only. You don't need a full sentence, and you are advised not to use a full sentence in the slide. But of course, you cannot just speak out with the keywords. You have to speak a full sentence or 2 sentences or even more. It's up to you. So let me give you an example. This brings me to the end of the presentation. Now before I finish, let me summarize the key points. First, I talk about ePhone as 3 products in one. And I want you to remember that with these ePhones, you are always connected. Second, I mentioned the easy interface of the ePhone. And I want you to pay attention to the touch screen typing, which is very important for the interface, which makes it super easy for the users. Third, I talk about the amazing applications. Remember that this phone has more than 2,000 free games that you can download. And finally, I talk about the long battery life of this phone. With the fully charged You can use it for up to 100 hours. So what I have done is the summary. You put the keywords in, but you need to say a full sentence. Okay? So this is practice 1. Practice 2. I want you to pause the video clip one more time and let's do it. Do similarly to what I have done in practice number 1. Okay, up to this moment, I strongly believe you can do a conclusion for yourself. You should watch this video clip because it gives you a vivid example of how people do the conclusion. Okay, let's start.
Today, we look at the end of the presentation, the summary or conclusion. The job of the presenter is to make sure the audience remembers the presentation. The good conclusion will help you do that. In the conclusion, you tell the audience in a very short, clear summary what you want them to remember from your presentation. Let's see how this works in 3 conclusions.
In conclusion, today I compared 2 pens, this and this. First, I compared the features and benefits. Please remember the finger grip and the pocket clip. Second, I demonstrated the special application for students. Don't forget, it's guaranteed to work. And third, I compared the cost-performance advantage. Remember, 2 pens for the price of 1. Thank you for listening.
So, what you have watched is an example of the conclusion that we have learned today. This will be your homework this week. Last time, in week 3, I asked you to film yourself giving the body to the topic. This week, again, you will film yourself, but this time giving the conclusion to the topic of week 3 that you have done. The time should be around 1 minute. You shouldn't do it for too long. Then you upload the video clip on YouTube or straight to Blackboard. Create a thread with your full name and ID in a discussion forum under the name Homework Week 3. I will do that. I will do the discussion forum name Homework Week 3. You create a thread with your full name in it. Then you paste the link of your video clip to that or you upload straight to Blackboard. Okay, looking forward to seeing your conclusion. Goodbye.